Thanks everyone for attending the talk. This is a paper about automatically detecting online survey scams. This is a joint work between University of Illinois and Northeastern University. Perhaps all of you have received something like this after a few hours delay in the middle of nowhere over the weekend to fill out a survey and provide feedback about the service that a company provides. This is actually a benign case, by the way. Or this is another benign case that I received from a Honda service after servicing my 2009 Honda Civic to provide feedback about the business or about the service that I actually used. So small and big companies use surveys for different purposes. They, for example, want to do marketing research, to engage with customers, or to perform competitive analysis in the market. Unfortunately, adversaries also know the benefits of these services, and they use it for malicious scenarios. In this talk, we're going to talk about some of those scenarios and how we can detect them. For example, in this case, a simple query to watch the Deadpool movie redirected me to this website. After clicking on the bottom here, I was redirected to a website to do a survey. And after completing the survey, I had to download this extension in order to play that movie. So at the end of the day, what happens is that the user does not get the material for free, but he will download a set of unwanted programs or reveal information about the organization or themselves. This is another example. Search for a free version of a popular PDF file redirected me to this website. Clicking on the download button sent me to this website to provide some information or complete a survey about the university I'm working in. After finishing the survey, I was provided a link to download a PDF, which was one single-page PDF file that contained an exploit in it. It was a malicious PDF file. So something that is evident here is that adversaries exploit the idea that nothing is free. You have to do something, at least complete a survey in order to get the material that you want. This probably sounds more convincing for a technically unsophisticated user. As you might have noticed, survey scams were not a new problem. These are actually a known problem. There do exist several reports that these attacks are serious. Also, some security companies revealed that or acknowledged that these attacks are serious. But it is not clear how users are defended or protected against these attacks. These are the key findings of this talk. Survey scams ecosystem is an underexplored area. There are some manual analysis in this ecosystem, but they do not follow a systematic or a scientific approach to analyze these scams. These attacks are serious because they target humans, real users, not vulnerable systems. So it is less likely that current defense mechanism will be very effective in protecting users from these attacks. But the good news is that we showed that it is possible to automatically detect and identify a large number of them without significant human intervention at scale. So I want to take a moment and formulate the ecosystem based on the example that I provided. So a technically unsophisticated user that is searching for highly discounted materials or free materials on the web is redirected to a set of website that is controlled by the attackers, by the adversaries, through malicious advertisement or visiting, for example, risky websites. After answering a set of questions, they are redirected to survey publishers that publish those surveys and are often monetized by inserting advertisement. They're asked to do the surveys and before they are redirected to the content that they were initially looking for. So at the end of the day, they do not get that information or that content, but they reveal information about themselves, their companies, or download unwanted programs. So what is clear here in this ecosystem, ad networks receive legitimate traffic, scammers, publishers, affiliate programs profit from this ecosystem, but unfortunately, end users are the ones that suffer a significant impact on their security and privacy. That's why we found there is a potential to work in this area, and we developed surveillance and to systematically analyze this ecosystem and see how this ecosystem works. We defined a set of goals. The high-level goals that we had were that we wanted to know how surveys can operate in practice, how attackers monetize these scams, and whether it is possible to disrupt these attacks with minimal human intervention at a scale. To achieve this goal, we had to solve a set of challenges. One, there was no central repository or prior larger scale work in this area in the past to see how this ecosystem works. The other thing was that measuring the impact of such attacks was not easy because in order to make a statistically significant conclusion about this attack, we had to take part in surveys and see what happens after clicking the submit button for the user, where user is redirected to. And three, unlike more traditional web-based attacks, there is often no direct links to survey scams. So in order to handle these problems, surveillance has three different modules. One, a crawler module that is based on instrumenting Chromium browser on top of DevTools API. A classification module that parses those traces, performs the classification, and tells whether this is a survey gateway or not. We use 14 features under 3 different categories. And the last part is an automatic survey filler, which is an extension that we developed that allows the survey publishers find the fields, provide the information based on a preloaded catalog that we provided to it, and pushes the submit button. So the first question that arises is that, what are the sources of survey scams? We observed that malicious advertisements were a key contributor to survey scams. And we took advantage of prior work in this area and looked for websites that try to deceive users. For example, watching a popular movie for free. But the question is how we collected those keywords that represent the user, real and normal users. So we collected those lists by using Google Trend Service. So you can refer to the paper what was our strategy to define those interesting keywords and how we collected them. For example, this keyword, Harry Potter novel series, led us to scanlib.com, which connected us to 4 different survey gateways. After analyzing our data set, we found that around 700 gateways, active gateway websites that were reachable by even enabling Google Safe Browsing. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 3 different feature categories. These are the more important ones. You can take a look at a paper, why we selected them, why they were resilient about in different cases. These are the more important ones. We perform feature ranking. We actually did classification and evasion analysis. And these are the high-level results of those analysis. Content-based and image-based feature were among the more informative features that we had. That was actually promising because most of these features were easily got value once the page was loading. So right now we have a working solution. We tested the features. We did the evasion analysis. So now we want to deploy it in a larger scale and see what we can find with minimal human interaction with this ecosystem. We found around 55,000 survey gateways that redirected us to 312,000 survey publishers. And we were able to complete around 131,000 surveys automatically. That was actually the best effort approach. There were lots of cases that we were not able to cover for different reasons. For example, every website has a different naming schema for the fields. So you can refer to the paper how we did that. One of the questions that arises is that how likely it is that a normal user gets exposed to survey scams. So we performed an analysis from the survey publisher and did a reverse tracing back to the entry point to survey ecosystem. And we created a redirection chain from the entry point, which was an URL that was simply inserted into the visited website to the survey publisher. After collecting all the redirection chain, we performed an analysis, and this is the result. Around 45% of the survey gateways were reachable from the Alexa top 30K websites. The result of this analysis suggests that it is likely that a normal user gets exposed to these scams on probably on a daily browsing activity. These are an example. This is actually an example of what a user is exposed to after successfully filling the survey and pushing the submit button. For example, the user is redirected to a shopping website to claim his or her reward by providing home information or the banking credentials. Or in this case, the user has to download a new version of Flash Player in order to play this movie for free. So these are two examples. We performed an analysis on all the 131 cases that we were able to analyze. We defined 7 different categories, and we found that potentially unwanted programs is the top category with a wide margin. Around 42% of the cases, the users were redirected to a page to download a potentially unwanted program. This result is actually in line with prior work in this area that were published at NDSS and used in 2016. We performed some analysis on the binaries that we collected, for example, community vetting, and we found 20% of the samples that we collected during our analysis were actually new, and VirusTotal did not have. It was the first time that they were submitted to VirusTotal. And these are the corresponding family name for those binary types. You see potential unwanted program, malicious extension. We saw ransomware and banking Trojan, but they were not observed significantly compared to the other cases that we had. So the key takeaway of this work is that survey scam ecosystem is a less well-studied area. These attacks are serious. They target users rather than vulnerable machines. So we have improvement on detecting attacks, automatically detecting attacks on vulnerable machines, but it's less likely that these techniques are helpful in this specific area. But the good news is that automatic detection of survey scam at the scale is possible. We show that it's possible. And some systematic techniques like surveillance can work well in practice and can augment, for example, the blacklist solutions or current security mechanism that browser vendors use to reduce the exposure of the user to these attacks. Thank you so much.
We have again time for a few questions.
Yeah, hi. Phoebe Rouge from the Federal Trade Commission. This is really great research. I really think that this is potentially useful. My question is there anything specific about surveys that you think is particularly malicious, or is this sort of method generally applicable to all types of malvertising, other ways that, other vectors that are used for distributing these sorts of things?
Great question. So the part that these web-based attacks deliver malware or extrapolate information is probably similar to other classical classic web-based attacks, right? Like malicious advertisement and so forth. But the issue is that this area where this actually cases were ignored for a long time. We knew that this problem exists. We saw that people do some ad hoc analysis on them, but this is not really clear that if these cases happen in a while, how security companies or browser vendors are going to protect the user. That part of that, it was actually something different from other highly studied areas in social engineering web-based attacks.
So if I could ask a follow-up question on that. You stated in your presentation that these surveys are used basically as a bait to get people to, download something or to do something that, might put them at risk. But is that the only threat here, or are the adversaries also interested in the information that the users input in the surveys?
Yeah, definitely. There are different scenarios exfiltrating information about the user, and geographical location, even the place they're working on. So it's not clear that how they are going to use that information. We didn't do any analysis on that part. But we actually saw cases that malware was not downloaded, but the user was asked to provide information about, for example, password or social media, something similar to classic phishing attacks.
Hi, Ben Stock from CISPA. Great talk, thank you. I was wondering, especially related to the previous question, is there some best practices by the attackers, such as you are asked to solve a CAPTCHA so that everybody knows that you're actually giving valid responses and you're not a bot? There's something like this in these surveys? Because with regular surveys you have this, right? You need to solve a CAPTCHA first. Is it also something the attackers are doing?
Yeah, this is actually, that's an interesting question. This was one of the cases that we were not able to automatically complete all the surveys that we had. So there were cases that they were malicious, they were asking for the CAPTCHA, but because we were not able to solve those CAPTCHA using our extension, we were not able to cover those cases. Yes, the answer to your question, yes, they are using that.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right, so if there are no more questions, let's thank the speaker and let's enjoy coffee.